Hey there. If I could turn back time, there's one thing I really wish. I wish someone had sat me down and shared the kind of lessons I'm about to share with you today. Looking back, I often think, man, if only someone had told me this earlier. And that thought sparked an idea, a series I'm calling What I Wish I Knew When I Was Younger. And the very first topic that came to mind, the one I knew I had to start with, is financial freedom. At first, I thought I could wrap it all up in one short episode. But the more I outlined it, the more I realized, there's just no way. This topic is too big, too important, and honestly, too life-changing to squeeze into a single episode. If I tried to rush it, I'd either have to cut out the good stuff or make it way too long and overwhelming. So instead, I'm breaking it down into smaller, more digestible episodes. And this one, today's episode, is the very first one in that series. I won't go deep into every step just yet. Instead, I want to focus on the why. Why should you care about personal finance? Why is financial freedom worth pursuing? And how can it completely change the trajectory of your life? In these early episodes, my goal is to give you a solid overview of what financial freedom really means. Before I dive into any major life decision, I always try to answer 3 key questions. 1. What is it? 2. Why should I do it? 3. How do I do it in the most effective way? The how is where the hard work begins. It's a long journey that requires time, effort, and discipline. That's why it's so important to get clear on the what and especially the why before anything else. And with something like financial freedom, that clarity matters even more. Because this journey? It's a long one. We're not talking weeks or months. It can take 10 years or more. And it's not just about time. It's about the consistency, the sacrifices, and the mindset shift that come with it. That's why today, I want to help you understand what you're really signing up for, and more importantly, why it's worth it. If you don't have a strong why, it's too easy to burn out or give up halfway. But if you're clear on your purpose, that's where your drive will come from. To be honest, this is the 3rd time I've recorded this episode. I kept redoing it because this topic means so much to me, and I want to get it right. I want it to be more than just information. I want it to inspire you. When I started my journey, I had no one to guide me. Everything I learned was through trial and error. I made mistakes, I wasted time. And that's why I'm sharing this with you now, so hopefully, you don't have to go through all that. If this series helps just one person take that first step toward financial freedom, then for me, it's a success. So if you're listening right now, just know, I've been there. And I'm here to walk this path with you. Let's get started. Alright, let's get into today's topic. We're going to talk about money, specifically, financial freedom. But before we dive in, I just want to make something clear. Yes, this episode is all about money. And while I do believe that life is about way more than just dollars and cents, family, health, relationships, purpose, this conversation will stay focused on finances. That's just the scope of today's topic. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying money is everything. But it does matter. Especially if we want to build a life with more choices and less stress. Now, let me start with a simple question. What is financial freedom, really? Before I answer that, let me give you a little backstory. I started my journey toward financial freedom over 10 years ago. Back then, I had no clue what the term even meant. But the first time I truly understood it, man, it hit me like a wake-up call. It was like someone had just shaken me awake from a life I didn't even realize I was sleepwalking through. You see, I'd been living like a lot of people do, earning money, spending it, and wondering why I was always broke by the end of the month. There were times when I made pretty good money too, but because I didn't know how to manage it, none of it stuck around. No savings. No investments. Just a bunch of receipts and a lot of stress. When I started learning more about personal finance, budgeting, and long-term investing, I discovered something else. There were people out there, young people, even, who were taking this seriously from the start. Some of them began their journey at 19 or 20, right when they entered the workforce. Honestly, I was jealous. Not in a bitter way, but in a, man, I wish I knew this stuff sooner kind of way. These folks were building a life of freedom from such a young age, while I was still trying to figure out where my money kept disappearing to. But looking back, I'm still grateful. Because while I didn't start as early as some, I also didn't start too late. And if you're listening to this right now, wherever you are in your life, you're not too late either. There's a quote I really love. It captures the essence of the financial freedom journey so well. Let me put the original on screen for you. Live a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. Simple, right? But incredibly powerful. What it means is, if you're willing to live differently, more intentionally, for a handful of years, you'll eventually earn the freedom to live the rest of your life on your own terms. For me, that looked like 10 years of living a bit differently from my friends. Now, when I say 10 years, don't get stuck on that number. It's not a rule or some magic number. It could be 5, 7, 15. It really depends on your income, expenses, how you invest, and your goals. But the idea is the same: sacrifice for a period, gain freedom forever. And here's something important. This journey doesn't mean living miserably. You don't have to give up coffee, vacations, or fun with friends. You just learn to spend mindfully. You stop buying stuff you don't need to impress people who aren't paying attention anyway. Personally, I've been on this journey for quite a while now. And I still live a life I enjoy. I go out, I travel, I spend on things I value. The difference is that I manage my money with intention and purpose. Eventually, you reach a point people in the fire: financial independence, retire early, community call. Fuck you, money! Now, excuse the language, but the meaning behind it is gold. It doesn't mean you're rich and arrogant. It means you're free. You can walk away from a toxic job. You don't have to keep up appearances. You can say no to anything that doesn't bring value to your life. Because here's the truth. Money, when we don't have control over it, controls us. It locks us into situations that drain our energy, our joy, even our health. But once you have enough to cover your needs, to give you options, you earn your freedom. You get to choose the life you want. You get to build it on your terms. And that, to me, is the real goal of financial freedom. Let me give you a simple example, especially for those of you who are still young. A lot of people only realize after they start working that they actually don't like their job. And in those situations, we often hear advice like, just quit. Follow your passion. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Sounds great, right? But let's be real, it's not that simple. Quitting your job sounds romantic, until you ask, where's the money going to come from? How will I afford rent, food, insurance? And if you're planning to switch careers completely, maybe go back to school or learn a new skill, you'll face even more challenges. You'll need time, energy, and most importantly, money to support yourself while you're studying. Then, when you finally start in that new field, chances are your salary will be pretty low at first. It might take years before you earn as much as you used to. So yeah, quitting your job and starting over is much easier said than done. And that's exactly why so many people just stay stuck in jobs they don't like. They don't hate them enough to risk everything, but they don't love them either. They keep going, day after day, knowing deep down that they're not happy. And when you look closely, you realize what's really keeping them there. Money. Or more precisely, the lack of financial freedom. If money wasn't an issue, I'm sure many of them would walk away in a heartbeat. That's one of the clearest examples of why financial freedom matters so much. Here's another way I like to look at it. Sometimes when I talk to young people, I ask them this. If you won the lottery tomorrow, let's say $10 million, would you still do the job you're doing right now? Most of the time they say, no. Of course, there are always a few who say yes, and that's great. Those are usually the people who really love what they do. They'd keep doing it, even if money didn't matter. But for the rest of us, that question is powerful. It helps us see whether we're working out of passion, or just working for a paycheck. And that's the beauty of financial freedom. It gives you options. It gives you the power to choose work you love, even if it pays little or nothing. And just as importantly, it gives you the power to walk away from work that drains you. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean we should become quitters. Even if you're financially free, you still want to do things with commitment and integrity. This isn't about being flaky or irresponsible. It's about having the luxury to stop when something no longer serves you. And that is a rare kind of freedom, one that most people never get to experience. And it's not just about work. Financial freedom lets you choose where you live too. I've met people who've told me, if I had a choice, I'd leave the city and move to the mountains, or back to my hometown. But they don't. Because their job keeps them stuck in a place they don't love. Once money is no longer the barrier, a whole new world opens up. You can live in any city, or even any country, you want. Of course, things like visas and passports matter, but that's a different topic. The point is, money no longer dictates your choices. And that, my friend, is real freedom. You've probably noticed by now that I keep repeating two simple words: financial freedom. And that's because, at the core of everything we're talking about, freedom is what we're truly after. Not money. Not luxury. Not even success in the traditional sense. But freedom, the ability to live life on your own terms. A lot of people misunderstand this. They think financial freedom is about being rich. They imagine you need tens of millions in your bank account to be free. But that's not it. Not even close. Financial freedom isn't about being wealthy, it's about being in control. It's about knowing that you can stop working tomorrow and still be okay. It's about having the power to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. And honestly, that kind of freedom is rare, even among the wealthy. Let me share something real. A friend of mine is a successful business owner in Vietnam. Hundreds of employees, a big company, lots of money. One day, over coffee, he told me, "Sometimes I wish I could just step away, take time off, explore other things." But he can't. His company, his people, they all rely on him. That conversation hit me hard. Because that's when I realized true freedom is more expensive than any car, house, or fancy lifestyle. Now here's the good news. Financial freedom isn't as far off as you might think. Most people imagine it requires millions. But in reality, all you need is a clear number, a target based on your lifestyle and values. In this series, I'll walk you through exactly how to calculate your personal freedom number. Not someone else's. Yours. Even better? You don't have to wait until you've hit that number to feel happy or free. The journey itself, the mindset shift, the sense of control, the confidence in your future, that's where the real reward begins. But here's the challenge. In Vietnam, and maybe you've seen this in other places too, many young people grow up without any education in personal finance. Budgeting, saving, investing, it's not taught. Worse, it's often looked down upon. If you talk about money, you're labeled as greedy or shallow. That mindset? It's dangerous. Because it leaves people unprepared. Living paycheck to paycheck. No savings. No backup plan. No control. Some even confuse being easygoing with being careless about money. But those two things are not the same. You can live freely and still be smart about how you manage your money. When I ask young people simple questions like, what's your minimum monthly expense? What's your ideal spending level? How much do you want to save this year? Most of them have no idea. And it's not their fault, nobody taught them. They just earn, spend, maybe save a bit here and there, and hope for the best. But hope is not a strategy. If you don't manage your money will manage you. I've seen it. You've seen it. Families break apart. relationships fall under pressure. And it's not always about the money, it's about the stress, the fear, the loss of control that money problems bring. Look, I'm not saying money buys happiness. But let's be real, having enough money lets you remove a lot of the things that make life harder. That's why I believe learning about financial freedom isn't optional. It's essential. So if you've ever felt stuck in a job you hate, wished you could travel more, wanted to help your parents retire, dreamed of starting something of your own, then this is for you. You don't need millions to be free. You just need clarity, consistency, and a plan. Let's walk that journey together. In the upcoming sessions, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step process to help you build your own journey toward financial freedom, in a way that's practical, personal, and actually works. Through my own experience on this path, I've come to realize that there are 3 essential building blocks for anyone who wants to achieve true freedom. And honestly, if you're missing even one of these, the whole journey becomes a lot harder, if not impossible. The first is mindset. And I don't mean motivation or feel-good quotes. I mean deep clarity about what enough looks like for you. Think of it like your fuel tank for a long journey. Knowing what's truly enough helps you avoid burnout. It helps you feel content along the way. And most importantly, it prevents the endless chase for more, which can quietly ruin your peace of mind. But here's the catch. If you only stop at being content, you risk becoming too comfortable. And comfort, if left unchecked, can make us settle for less than we're capable of, financially and in life. That's why mindset is important, but it's not the whole picture. The second key is what I like to call escape velocity. It's a term borrowed from astrophysics. It describes the speed a rocket needs to break free from Earth's gravitational pull. In personal finance, it's the specific number, your number, that allows you to break free from financial anxiety, to no longer be bound by paycheck-to-paycheck living. This number doesn't mean you have to stop working when you hit it. It simply means you now have a choice. You can continue working, slow down, explore, rest, give back, on your terms. Knowing this number gives your journey a destination. Without it, it's like driving without a map. You're moving, but you don't know where you're going. You're busy, but not free. The third key? You need more than a big goal, you need milestones. This is where most people get stuck. They dream big. I want to retire early, I want financial freedom. But they never break it down into smaller, actionable steps. When we don't break a goal down, it stays a fantasy. Something we think about, but never actually pursue. That's why in future sessions, I'll show you how to turn your long-term goals into short-term, motivating checkpoints. Each milestone gives you clarity. It gives you wins. And most importantly, it gives you momentum. This episode's already getting a bit long, so I'll wrap it up here. I hope what I've shared has planted a seed of inspiration, not just about money, but about how powerful it can be to take ownership of your financial life. Before we dive into the strategies and tools in the next episodes, I just want you to take one thing with you today. You don't have to be rich to be free. But you do have to be intentional. So if this message resonates with you, if it makes you think about your own relationship with money, and what kind of freedom you want, I invite you to keep following this series. And feel free to share it with a friend who might need it too. Thanks for being here. See you in the next episode, where we'll start breaking things down, one step at a time.